What is going on, you guys? My name is Rage, and we are back today with another Dark Dimension 5 overview and playthrough video for you all. In today's video, we're going to be walking through the next stage here of being the legendary nodes, being that last section of Dark Dimension 5. So I'll show you guys high level my 5 characters, and as well as dive into the gameplay. Starting things off, easily, hands down, the best legendary in the game right now, Morgan Le Fay. You guys have a chance to bring her in. The fact that she has so much capabilities, her time warp is so powerful, and all of her attacks scaling with the health percentage. This is extremely powerful in Dark Dimension, especially with these enemies that we are up against, having the higher health pools. Omega Red, very similar to Morgan Le Fay in the sense that, you know, his attacks do scale with HP, but the fact that he has 2 ability blocks and trauma makes him a very powerful character to add that crowd controlling aspect, and as well as him being a very powerful and tanky character overall. We also have Shuri here, being part of that key sustain, right? Her special is nothing to joke over, applying defense up, granting energy for our fellow allies, and especially the rework to Wakandans. There's definitely been a lot more love with Shuri being that legendary healer. As you can see, I personally recommend this skirmisher that we can add vulnerability as well. It's going to add that aspect of being able to, leverage the strikers that we have on our team. We have Rogue here, being the newest legendary in the game. And she's been amazing to try this out, because I was actually waiting on bringing up Phoenix to Gear 16, but with the Rogue release in the Famine Scourge event, just having her has been so nice because of her crowd controlling, her gloves off special that can start things off, and all these negative conditions that will just stick, and as well as her having a handy stun is just that extra aspect of crowd controlling combined with Mega Red, making short work of these nodes. Last but not least, guys, highly recommend Jubilee. I know she's kind of fallen out of place given her team and the raids meta, but still remains the mutant teams is the only viable raid team right now that we know of in combination with the other powerful mutants in the game. But she has a blind, she's got a stun, and the fact that naturally she can have assisted attacks and so forth, and as well when enemies go down with the turn meter, she's going to get that back as an increase to her speed. So there you guys have it. Those are the 5. Now let's dive right into the gameplay. Now, the strategy and overall synergy of these 5 legendary characters are going to be similar to how I played my first node in this legendary section, which is, starting things off, at the moment we get key abilities like Morgan Le Fay's ultimate, we're going to be controlling these enemies with ability blocks and stunning them whenever we can, flipping their positives, as you can see there. But it's just so notable because the amount of crowd controlling that we have on this team. I recommend using Rogue Special if you guys have her on your team on Bishop, just because he's one of the key targets we do want to take down. But you can see we're just making our rounds right now, slowly applying all the ability blocks, all the stuns, making sure that we control this initial wave, because it could be dangerous if they get their abilities, but once they have the ability blocks and stuns, even on Sentry there, now we're going to prevent them from getting Shroud and so forth. Now, I'd recommend actually taking down Bishop first though, just because he's got damage, and as well we want to take advantage of the fact that we ability blocked him thanks to Morgan Le Fay. And then continue going on and seeing if we can take down Cloak, and if not, at least blind him, so that way if Cloak goes off of his ultimate, it's going to be able to be prevented, right? That's the biggest thing. Whenever you have Shuri's special, fully utilize it, just because that's going to give us the energy, the defense up, and just like I said earlier, the beautiful synergies here. Deathpool is another character we should be mindful of, just because she's actually able to self-cleanse and can apply those negatives back onto us, but fortunately though, she doesn't get a lot of turns just because of that ability block that we set on her. And as well, like I said, this team is just so good at crowd controlling. So now we go ahead now and start scaling our damage on Deathpool. I think Jubilee and Sentry are good ones to leave behind at the end, just because they're not really an immediate threat. They don't do too much damage, and really with Sentry, it's just the fact that he can shroud and create clones, and that just slows us down a little bit. There we go, and we just go ahead now and just save our abilities, just finish off Sentry, and that should spawn the next wave here, being this combination that you see. Kind of a random mixture, but start things off again. We're going to go ahead and, take away key players, right? Going ahead and actually just stunning right there. Excuse me, the special ability that just has all those negative conditions against them, and as well as I recommend stunning Blob as well, just because of the synergies he has. He can be quite tanky. The other one to be mindful of is Juggernaut. Any of these tanks to have those abilities, but the Dabros combination just to get the damage out of the way. But you should be able to have at least 2 or 3 of the legendaries I'm using, and You can see very quickly we just start controlling this wave immensely, even despite the fact that there is about 2 to 3 tanks on their side. And yeah, at this point, I would just go ahead, start allocating damage. Like I said, it's really kind of picking your own poison. Vulture's a good one too. I didn't really focus him in the recording here, but I had those mindful targets because I know how much of the turn meter we can get back with Morgan Le Fay. So Vulture is also very squishy, so that's why I paid no attention to him. And I did in fact want to take down the key damage dealers first. That way, we're not getting inflicted that damage to take us down. So as you can see, just going ahead finishing. That's one down, and then yeah, like any chance you get Jubilee to actually apply her blind, another good way to actually just mitigate damage as well. But finally, we go ahead and switch gears here and start taking down some of the squishier enemies on the team here. And I think the key one too is just to watch for that Sentry ability, right? Because you definitely don't want him to utilize his ultimate to summon the clones and shrouding them and so forth. So something to be mindful of. Because it does eat up time when that happens, as you can see right there. So it is what it is. I probably should have ability block better, but in this instance, it is what it is. Fast forwarding here just to save you guys a bit of time. As you can see, Sentry goes down, and then hopefully Call Obsidian should be the last one, prompting another wave here now, another mixture of this Brotherhood with the tanks. Yeah, so it almost looks like the exact same wave, which is actually pretty funny because they just basically replicated. But yeah, similar strategy, guys. We're gonna go ahead and use our key abilities once again on our team to start applying negative conditions and making sure that they can't utilize their abilities, right? The ability blocks are really huge here. If you have crowd controllers like Omega Red, Rogue is a really big one because she has her devastating special, and as well as a very handy stun to slow enemies down here. And again, with the Shuri special, granting energy, and the Morgan Le Fay just doing so much work with her ultimate when you apply all those negatives and applying ability blocks as well, puts us in a really good position. Even though Sentry used his abilities there, there's a disruption actually being applied, so it was quite alright. Didn't really impact us too much. But again, you can see in this wave, I think the problematic part is just being patient. And if characters like Juggernaut and Call Obsidian go ahead and use their abilities, it's going to eat up a little bit of time just because they are tankier. But keep in mind too, we have both Morgan Le Fay and Omega Red, their attacks scaling with HP. So although these are powerful tanks we're dealing with, we can flip a lot of it, and we can also scale their HP regardless of the buffs that they have with defense up and so forth. And once that right cluster is taken care of and cleaned up, and we can proceed with the left side, just because the left side is the majority of where all the tanks are. And as you can see, I'm just going ahead now and just doing damage and allocating accordingly. There shouldn't be too much risk here, just because these guys really can't do much damage. So it's honestly just kind of taking your time and making sure you get your damage on them, applying the vulnerabilities, utilizing the strikers. But also, guys, as we level down here in terms of the enemies tailing out, make sure you're saving up energy in preparation for the next wave, because there's still going to be 14 characters left after these guys are taken down. There we go, and afterwards, spawning another wave, kind of a combination of the previous waves we've already seen, but again, the key targets is going to be Bishop, as we saw in the previous waves, and as well as the Moon Knight. Both of them just having really strong damage, but something else to watch out for is also Magneto's ultimate there, so we just need to be mindful of that when he does actually utilize it. But you can see here, because they don't have a cleanser, I do want to apply as much stuns as possible. And again, if you get a chance to blind with Jubilee, it's another good crowd controlling method. And every time we can reset with Morgan Le Fay, taking away all that turn meter back and just doing so much damage overall. Yeah, just such a powerful team, guys. So honestly, just based on my experience so far, everything I've seen, especially with these legendary nodes, I think this is definitely the easiest section of all Dark Dimension 5. It's kind of nice that we get to end things up like this, because just the characters we can use, and you can see the number of crowd controlling aspects that we have. It just becomes almost like wave managing which enemies are going to get the turn and just ensuring they don't get it, right? So, and then leaving the tanks for the very end, it just makes it such a streamlined experience, as you can see here. There we go. We go ahead, clean up shop there with Magneto, and yeah, typically I don't like to leave damage dealers at the very end, but just the way it worked out with everybody else going down, with how the damage kind of shook out. And then afterwards, guys, the last wave here, very, very similar. A couple combinations mixed up here, but you can see we actually do have a mixture of the Secret Avengers and as well as the Infinity Watch here. So just something to be mindful of. I think Captain Sam is probably the most dangerous character here next to Silver Surfer. Both of them we just need to be mindful of, so that's why I do apply Rogue Special. Usually that's the high target character that I care about at the very end. You can see just how fast these guys go down too. They're not that tanky at all, so by the time you actually apply all this damage and whatnot, I guess the one thing to be careful about is because we know the next node's gonna have Dormammu, who we're up against, so maybe at this point start saving up your energy when it's down to 2 enemies, 3 enemies. But again, leaving both Sentry and Maria Hill at the very end and both of them being stunned, they're not doing much to us. So now we're just building up energy and just attacking here because we need Rogue's abilities. Her energy cost for her abilities is definitely the biggest weakness for her, but yeah, we're just taking our time here and we're in a good place now for the last and final node of Dark Dimension 5. So there you guys have it. Almost no struggles. The previous node I actually did lose Jubilee accidentally, but with this one you can see just making sure it's wave management and controlling the enemies. Very, very straightforward, guys. Now it's just the last but not least final node here being Dormammu. Also for damage history here, you can see the one attack 57.9 million. So hope this video is able to help you guys in your progression. Thank you as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.